So what is positive psychology? It is simply a science that measures and is concerned about the life worth living. Often you will hear people call it a science of positive psychology or science of happiness. Many of us didn't even know the science of happiness exists. Did you? Regardless if you are just trying, cut. Regardless if you are just trying to understand what positive psychology is all about, or want to get some more detailed information, I will do my best to address it in this lecture. Science of positive psychology, as defined by Dr. Martin Seligman and Dr. Mihail Csikszentmihalyi, is the study of positive emotions, positive character, and positive institutions. This idea here is not to replace traditional psychology and what we learn about human sufferings and disorders, but rather to supplement traditional psychology. It is very important to understand this fact. Again, the idea of science of positive psychology is not to replace traditional psychology, but rather to supplement to that. Another thing that I get often in seminars, workshops, and simply in discussions with friends and family and just people all over the place is that many confuse positive psychology with positive thinking, or also what's known as law of attraction. And some of you may heard of that term, law of attraction. Now, the major difference is that this is a science, which means it is rigorously measured and then applied. Although some folks say that many things people did before are simply now proven and validated. And all we do in the science of positive psychology is measure and prove the scientifically research that certain things, what we call in psychology positive interventions, bring us happiness. And in some cases, that might be the true. Many things people have tried for thousands of years, and for some of these tools, science is now proving that's working. But wouldn't most of us want science to support and prove what happiness is all about? I know I would, and I did. That's how I got into this field. For example, as a former globally certified trainer and the business coach for Dale Carnegie organization, I used to teach people to smile. And that's really one of the Dale Carnegie principles. I am glad that today there is so much research behind smile. And you can see my lecture on smile in my habits program here on Curious. And so why is that good for us? That just makes much more sense now for many people to actually do it. And even if they see it as a selfish exercise, we know there is so much research behind the smile, and that just simply smiling will help us become happier and therefore improve our well-being. So with traditional psychology, we were focusing on repairing damage. And with positive psychology, we focus to build on good things, build on positive qualities of people and organizations. What's really interesting is that positive psychology focuses on past, right? So that's the experience, future, so that's the hope and optimism, and present, and that's flow. We will discuss flow in details later on in one lecture. We're going to focus on flow only. Traditional psychology is concerned about helping people get from not so great life, depression, etc., into the okay life. So if you look at on a scale, they would be going, people from say -5 or -10, moving them all the way towards 0. And when we get them to the 0, we've done a good job. Positive psychology is concerned about what's good with people rather than what's not good. So what's good about you, what's working, rather than what's not good about you or what's not working. I want to make it clear again that positive psychology is not here to replace traditional psychology, but rather to be in addition to. There's a certain place for traditional psychology, trying to fix what's wrong, and for some of us that is absolutely necessary. However, focusing on also what is right with people is what positive psychology is all about. So on the scale, if we look at the scale, we're moving people from now 0 to +5, right? Or so that's really what we will be addressing in this course and what science of positive psychology is all about. Until recently, the science was only available to folks from Harvard University and such. And here on the street, we simply didn't have access to it. We didn't know it, and many of us still don't know. My dear friend, mentor, positive psychologist, Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar, ran a first class on positive psychology at Harvard University, where he had 800 or so students, 1,500 students, I believe, at one point, attending his class. Now, some of you will ask, how much happier these folks from Harvard really want to be? Shouldn't they be the happiest people in the world? After all, they got accepted and study at one, if not the most prestigious university in the world. And yet, they were searching for more happiness? Why? Harvard students were asked a question. How many of you thought, if you get that letter from Harvard, letting you know that you are accepted, how many of you thought that you would be happy for a very long time? And guess what happened? Most of the students raised their hands. Then they were asked another question. How many of you are happy now? Very few hands went up. Here's a simple math for you. Imagine their entire life. They were in top 1%. Their entire life. And now, all of a sudden, as soon as they showed up at the Harvard, 99% of them are not in top 1%. That is a simply math, right? 99% of these kids that were always in top 1% are now not in top 1%. So that must create such an unhappiness, right? But jokes aside, many of us were told when we were growing up that you will be happy when you finish high school. You'll be happy when you get that university you so badly want to go to. You'll be happy when you get the job of your dream. You will be happy when you get promoted. You'll be happy when you buy your beautiful house. You'll be happy when you get married. You'll be happy when you have kids and so on. So we thought successful people are happy. Let's think of some successful people we know. Can you identify any, even like famously well-known successful people who you know are not happy? Many, unfortunately, even committed suicide. But I don't want to go that far. After all, this is a happiness class. So the bottom line is, the research shows really the other way around. It is not that successful people are happy. It is that happy people are successful. Again, it is not that successful people are happy. It is that happy people are successful. And happiness can be learned. And that is why we are here. To learn to be happy and therefore become even more successful. So how and when was the field of positive psychology established, you might ask? Here's a little history before we get deeper into the science and exercises and improving our life. I just thought it would be good for you to have a little bit of background and just know at least the basic history of positive psychology. As per Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar, here are the grandparents of positive psychology. And here are the parents. Positive psychology was officially introduced in 1998 by Dr. Martin Seligman, when he was the president of the American Psychological Association. Marty is known as the father of positive psychology. You're probably going to hear that term. And here's Marty and I at the World Congress of Positive Psychology. It was really great to be there with Marty. Why was this field established? Because they wanted to study what makes people happy rather than what makes them miserable. I think by now we know a lot about what makes people miserable. Unfortunately, we probably know few of those folks. But I digress again. Let's focus on happy people and what makes them happy. While I am introducing the science of positive psychology, let me tell you very important research done by Professor Barbara Fredrickson, and that is the happiness ratio. Don't think that happy people are always happy. They are not. And if they are, we can probably call them crazy rather than happy, because we all need to experience all the emotions, not just happiness. So here's what's really important. People that have 3-to-1 positivity ratio and higher than 3 are happy people. So what does it mean? Three positive experiences versus 1 negative. Whoever 3 versus 1 or higher are happy people. In Barbara Fredrickson later research and the documents that she called Updated Thinking on Positive Ratio, this was published in July 2013, she states, and I quote, "The data say that when considering positive emotions are better up to a point, although this later caution may be limited to self-focused positive emotions. The data also say that when considering negative emotions, less is better down to a point. Negative can either promote healthy functioning or kill it." End of quote. Now you understand when I say that all the emotions are necessary and negative emotions, which we're not going to focus on, could promote healthy functioning, as Dr. Barbara Fredrickson said in her latest paper. Now, why am I mentioning this? For all of us to keep it in mind again that if we try to keep increasing positive emotions and keep decreasing negative ones, we can simply do more damage to ourselves than good. So, is there a way that we can increase positivity ratio? Actually, yes, it is. And that is what this course is all about. So let's recap. In this lecture, we covered history of the science of happiness, why it was established, who established it and when. We also discovered that research shows that happy people are successful and not the other way around. That is very important discovery. And one more, positivity ratio. If we have it 3-to-1 or higher, so 3 positive emotions versus 1 negative or higher, we are considered to be happy people. If we are not, or we want to increase this ratio, then we need to move on to the next lecture.